So these are all the things I've done since in 20. This is my 27th year making video games, and so I've done a lot of programming stuff. I've been a programmer on teams. I've been a programmer leading teams of programmers. I moved into production, so helping, so sort of directing whole teams, doing all the different things that you need to do to make a video game. I have worked at Xbox, where I helped studios who are making games on Xbox to do so, and in lots of different ways. And I've made mobile games, and I've made console games, and I've made PC games, all the kinds of games. Not all the kinds of games. I haven't made a VR game. Never made a VR game. Never made an arcade game. You know, maybe one day. I'm leaving these options open for later on. But these days, I work for Epic, and I have this fancy role of business development director, which means that I've worked with tons of studios around Europe who are using Unreal Engine to make their video games, and I help them do it because Unreal is complicated, and these people are very smart, and they need help sometimes. So anyway, that's a bit about me. Okay, we're on slide 1. Let's see if we can. There it is. Right. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about getting jobs as a games programmer. Am I in the right room? We're having the right conversation? Everyone's interested in that? Right. Okay. Are you all interested in games programming as a career?
Maybe.
Does anybody want to be a vet?
Maybe multi-purpose.
Well, you can be a vet during the day and make video games in the evening if necessary. These things are compatible. There are a lot of different. Being a programmer on a video games team is not one thing. There are tons of different things that you can do. If you're an indie living the indie dream, then not only you probably are the sole programmer, you're probably also doing the art. You're probably doing the submissions. You're probably doing all of the things. But actually, on any video game team of any decent size, there are lots of different coders doing lots of different work. These few slides talk about some of those different ones. Yeah. So I'm not going to go into depth on these, but yeah, there are lots of different kinds. AI programmers who I know AI means something else these days, right? But in the old days, AI means the behaviour of little creatures and characters that walk around and have thoughts and do stuff. That's what I started off doing. Now these days you might call it a gameplay programmer. Engine programmers, like actually doing hardcore rendering stuff and audio engine stuff, and actually creating the platform, creating an engine like Unreal, which other people are going to use to make their games. Or even if you're in a studio that's using Unreal, understanding how Unreal works, making changes to the engine so that you can do the things your game wants to do. Yes, mate?
I feel like AI could come in like many shapes and forms. Like in RPG, you'd need some kind of AI, maybe a random number generator in order to like decide what move the enemies you're doing or something.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, there's all sorts of different things that an AI program would need to do depending on whether you're making or what type of game you're making for certain. So engine programmers tend to be pretty low level. You need to understand about really serious programmer computer stuff, whereas an AI programmer might be more focused on how things behave and how to make lots of characters behave efficiently. So very different types of jobs. I'll skip over those two, but they're sort of more back-end ones. Just quickly going through some of this. Again, graphics programmers, kind of similar to rendering programmer, engine programmer, but with a focus on the visuals and on the getting particular visual effects and so on. Network programmers and physics programmers. Network programmers, any game that includes players talking to each other, or especially like large numbers of players, like an MMO or any game with a multiplayer component, you're going to need to have a network programmer who understands how to do that stuff, because it's easy, because it's incredibly important in one of those games that every player understands what every other player is doing. Now, again, an engine like Unreal or other engines, to a lesser extent, do handle this stuff for you, so that you can you don't have to worry about it. But even then, there's a lot of stuff you still have to do to make sure that you use those techniques properly. Same thing with physics. Like you might have a very physics-heavy game, like what's it called, Teardown, right?
Oh yeah.
Teardown's an amazing game, right? That's all physics. Whereas all physics and rendering, right? Very clever engine. very clever physics, even if it does run at 3 frames a second sometimes. And then I wanted to include this one as well, the technical designer. So the important point is there is a real spectrum between super hardcore, low-level bits and bytes crunching, memory management, optimization, understanding exactly how a PlayStation works different to an Xbox, which is incredibly valuable skills to have, and those guys get paid, those people get paid big bucks. And then there's also, but they don't tend to be very close to the game of the thing that you think of as the game. They are quite abstract. They're working on technology for the most part. Technical designers are kind of at the other end of the programming spectrum and almost blend into the design role. Technical designers are people who have a design brain, and they understand what's fun and how to make and understand about game feel. And I know you guys know all about that. But they know how to express and reach those goals, and they know how to. They've got an idea for how the game should play. But achieving that requires that you write some code or some blueprint or some other visual scripting, and you need a programmer's brain to do that. So a technical designer is that kind of mixture of both. It's a really fascinating role. So yeah, so those. This is all, by the way, off of this site called Intergames. If you haven't found Intergames, which is intergames.org. Check it out, because there's a ton of really good career advice and resources on there. Right, so what I want to mainly talk about is how do you actually go about applying to companies as a junior programmer, because that's where you're going to start if you are going to apply to somebody else's company. If you want to go straight in and form your own indie studio and get making games, all power to you. Give it a go. It's hard, but if it works out, it's incredible. But it's hard, and it's a tough time at the moment to try and get money for that sort of thing. But if you're living at home and you can afford the time, and you've got some friends that you want to get together and make a game and you get it out on Steam, do it. Just do it. It has never been easier to make video games. It's also never been harder to sell video games, but make it first. We can worry about that down the track. Because if you make a video game together with other people or on your own, it will also help you massively in getting a job in a bigger studio. So imagine you are applying to a bigger studio. So I've combed my network on LinkedIn and spoken to some people I know and some recruiter people that I know, and tried to kind of gather some advice for you, just for you, for this room right now, right? No one else has seen this stuff apart from people who read my LinkedIn. How do you make your code application stand out? It is true to say that any given particularly junior code role which is open, which is advertised by a company, will have a lot of applications, a lot. Depending on the size of the company, someone like Epic, we have like an internship program which we'll talk a bit more about. But I was speaking to the guy who used to look after, who was one of the recruiters on the internship program. We have 10,000 applications for one role, right? We'll talk a bit about that. Now, that's at one end. I have been doing this for 20, whatever it was, years. I don't think I could get through that filter personally. I think I'm not good enough to get through that, right? So don't be too concerned about, like, it is definitely worth looking out for those internships, but understand that there are many other ways of getting these roles. But by all means, if you feel like you're going to go for it, then go for it and take some of this advice to heart, because while it is true that even if it isn't 10,000 roles for 10,000 applications for one role, there are still going to be a lot. But that's the bad news. The good news is that you can be better than most of the others by just doing some stuff which most of the others don't do, because they don't sit in this room and listen to people like me telling you the answers. Right? I can give you the answers to the application process exam, right? Not all of them, but I can give you a bunch of them. So how can you make your code application stand out? Right, so I put this message up on LinkedIn. Do you I've got 6,000 connections on LinkedIn, and they're all video games people. Do you hire junior coders? What do you like to see in applications for entry-level coders in 2024? So I've pulled up a whole bunch of stuff. This is very tiny writing. I'm not expecting you to read all this. I'm happy to share these notes afterwards. You're also very welcome to connect to me on LinkedIn if you want. I've got a QR code at the end, and you can read this for yourself. Anyway, and also I'm going to say, before I go through some of these, I've got a whole bunch of these, but as I go through them, recognize that some of these people contradict each other, right? Some people will give you one set of advice, which another person will give you a different amount of advice. That's good news, because it means that there are lots of different companies out there looking for lots of different types of things. And just because you've been rejected from one, does not mean you're going to be rejected from the next one, right? And it is hard, but persistence is important. It's practically important because because it's more likely that you won't get accepted than you will, just because of the sheer number of people who apply. But also showing that persistence is one of the core skills that is one of those answers to the exam, right? If you want to know how to skip the application process, or kind of like hack the application process, there's a few things that you should think about, and one of them is being persistent. It's just believing that you want this and just keeping going, right? Just keep going, keep trying, keep hammering away, make your application better next time. Just every time you get every time someone says, you get rejection, just try and understand why, work on maybe tweak your application a bit, try again, and again, and again, and again. Right, so these are some comments from LinkedIn, not in any particular order necessarily.
Unity first.
Hey?
Unity Technologies first.
I know, yeah. So this is my dude who works at Unity. I've got loads of friends who work at Unity, although half of them keep getting sacked these days. But anyway, that's a whole other story. We've had our fair share of that at Epic, to be fair. Right, so there's a few themes that are going to come up. One is Steve says what he wants to know is how well a young person navigates uncertainty. There's a really good point here. Being in over your head is a natural state for most young coders. You are not expected to get a job as a games programmer and just be across everything, right? And know how to do everything. That's not why they hire you. Why do people hire junior coders? It's for lots of things. It's for potential. It's for how you think. It's for how you get stuck in. It's for how you've demonstrated how much you care about this, and how interested you are, and how persistent you are. It is not about how amazing your programming skills are. However, you still need to be able to demonstrate your programming skills. And again, that's something which comes through differently in some of these comments. Some people say, I want you to be able to do this, this, and this technically. Other people are saying, I don't really mind so much about that. We can teach you that. Good coders have been doing it for many, many years, and they improve their skills over time. And also the skills change all the time. So there are some underlying attitude things that don't change that you need to have. So do you ask good questions? If you've got it, coding is full of problems with answers and situational. You rarely solve the same problem twice in games programming, because you're relying on all sorts of stuff. Maybe you're relying on Unreal, which is changing twice a year. You're relying on platforms. You're making a game for a platform, and platforms change, and graphics cards change on the PC, and Xbox, new Xboxes come out, and new Nintendo platforms come out, and all the rest of it. So you're always having to work out how to do the next thing, which is the new thing. So how do you approach that? It's not by knowing it already, of course. It's about how do you approach it. Do you ask good questions? How do you take a problem and find a solution? How do you investigate it yourself? How do you work with other people, other senior programmers in the team to ask good questions of them? How do you work out how to ask for help, and what the difference is between asking for help and asking someone to do it for you? All of this kind of stuff. Can you admit you don't know without losing your composure? I thought that was a great comment. It is fine. In fact, I think I'll save that for later now. So coming on to a similar comment in a bit. Right. So these guys, code wizards, who are so code wizards are an instance of a very common type of games company, particularly in the UK, that their business is not making their own games. Their business is helping studios who are making games to get those games finished. Whether they are optimizing, whether they are porting a PC game onto console, whether they are implementing certain features like they're doing the multiplayer, or they are doing the Switch version, or they're doing whatever. So I thoroughly recommend that as a place to start, or as a place to think about in your early days of coding, or even beyond. There's lots to say. There's lots of good things about that kind of company. You might think that's not very sexy. I want to be making the next big amazing thing, and that's cool. But these people work on game after game after game very rapidly. You might work on a game for 6 months and you'll get exposure to how that works, and then after 6 months you might move on to a different game, and then a different one, and then a different one. And remember, every game that a studio like that works on is a game that someone with money has paid that studio money to do that work, which means that they have money which they believe is going to come back through sales of that game. Right? They are making it that they believe so much in the success of the game that they're working on that they believe it's going to make a lot of money. That is a good place to be. It is quite hard these days to know that the game you're working on is going to make money. And if someone is paying you to make it, that's a good sign. So we call these outsourcers or co-developers, and Code Wizards is one such. A really good one in the UK. Stuart runs it. Anyway, so how do they hire? They hire in 3 things, he says. Attitude and ethos. Again, I said that before. It's just like, how do you come across? Willingness to learn and technical skills. Willingness to learn, he says, is super important. We've all worked with a clever young engineer who already knows it all, but from my experience, the best young coders are the ones who are willing to take direction. In other words, be told what to do next. They're happy to ask questions, even if they feel like they're stupid questions, and they listen to the other senior people around them, and they learn through them. They are humble about what they know and what they don't know, and then they are willing, and they work hard to increase that knowledge. So willingness to learn, attitude and ethos. This is their mantra, which I won't read out loud. But don't be an idiot, right? Because it's incredibly important. There are many game studios that would fit in this room, right? You guys would actually be a medium-sized game studio if you were just all working on a game together. So it is incredibly important that you aren't the person on that team who annoys everybody, right? Who you've got to work. A games team only succeeds as a team. Everybody is dependent on everybody else, and there's a lot of different personalities, and you all have to learn how to get on with each other. So also, I didn't highlight it, but expect them to be proactive. Just get stuck in, work out what needs doing, and just find a good way of doing it that works for everybody else. You're willing to see team goals as more important than your own. The goal is getting a video game out, not necessarily your own personal advancement, but you can get both. Positive attitude, tenacity. Again, stick at it. Just get involved. And he says technical skills are last on his list, but still important. We can teach people C++ or C# or whatever, but you do need some level of innate skill to learn from. Well, you guys are, once again, you are in the right room right now for this, and it is important that you develop your technical skills not just through the work that you do with Paul and the guys, but also find a way of learning beyond that. Even if you go to university and study games development there or games programming, always try and be pushing beyond what you're being told. Because remember, there are a lot of people in rooms like this, which is a great thing, but you have to sort of you have to show that you are interested in this beyond just soaking up what you're told. Right, keep going. So I've just highlighted this bit over here. So I don't know what that's about. So what was that? Oh yeah, okay. So sure, you need to be able to answer the questions as you expect, but a previous paid job where you can understand routine and time management. This is a really good point. So it isn't one of the things that will help you get a job in games programming is having had a job doing anything else, right? If you're a junior, because again, it's about, because working is a very big, is a lot different, as I'm sure some of you will have jobs and you'll know that the working life is a lot different to school life or college life. There are places you have to be, and you have to be there for a long time, and there's stuff, and sometimes it's not always that much, it's not always that fun, but you just have to crack on and do it and turn up and work hard and get stuck in, and being able to talk about having done that is valuable in your application to a games job. What else are we going to do? Yeah, so again, yes, I think this was probably the bit I tried to highlight, showing an interest in their chosen discipline. I'm going to say some of these things over and over again because they are absolutely critical, and if you aren't doing them, you are going to put yourself at a disadvantage. If you want to make video games for a career, potentially for the rest of your life, and you want people to believe that that's true, you are going to have to go into that room with that interviewer and be able to demonstrate that. They are speaking to a lot of people who might claim that's true, but you have to show why you really, really want it. Again, it goes back to like pushing a little bit outside of school, doing stuff on your own, working on some projects yourself at the weekends. Find other people. I mean, this is a rich mix of people between you. I'm sure maybe this is already part of your course, but find 3 or 4 other people and work out a way of making something together with complementary skills. You're going to do the programming, they're going to do the art, this kind of art, they're going to do this kind of design, whatever. Find ways of doing that. That stuff is gold. I'm going to say it again, the risk of tedium. If you have done that, this 10,000 people thing, suddenly you're in the top 500, right? You've just waltzed past 9,000+ people. Which I hope you understand. It sounds like a good thing, right? You are hacking the process. So, this person thinks that being very passionate about specific discipline is important. So that's like, which area of coding are you interested in? Like, if you're interested in network coding, you're interested in rendering, then show some stuff that you've done, where you've learned something, because you're unlikely to learn those details in class, or even to an extent, even in a degree level. And again, you don't have to be amazing at it, but just demonstrate that you've looked into it and you've kind of put a bit of effort into it. Again, with personal projects outside of school, it comes up time and time again. Portfolio. Again, is this person always up to date on the latest way? Are I always exploring, tinkering, trying new things? It's repeating that same point again. Right. This is one of a point which is incredibly important. Being self-reflective. You are going to do things wrong. You're going to do things wrong in class. You're going to do things wrong on a degree course. You're going to do things wrong in your working life. You're going to do things wrong in KFC, if you work in there, right? It is not only okay to mess up, it's more or less necessary to mess up. If you aren't messing up, you're probably not quite trying hard enough. But a great combination is if you're messing up occasionally, and then you're able to talk about, demonstrate what you learned from that. Even better, if you can then provide a second example from like a year later, where you can show how you avoided the problem that you learned from the last time, that you made the last time, and maybe the second time you've made some new mistake. That's okay. It's okay. It's not only okay. You have to make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough, right? Just keep pushing, keep trying to do new stuff. Again, knowing what questions to ask, where to find an answer, working with a team is really good. Although other people say later on, having stuff that you've shown that you've done on your own is equally good, because the people looking at it can be more confident about what you did relative to other people on the team. Internships and placements we talked about. So there's a couple of examples. So Rare do an internship, Sumo Digital do an internship. Sumo Digital is a UK studio based up in Sheffield. It's I don't know how many people it is now. It's like 2,000 people. Those are fantastic, and Rare is also really big up in the Midlands. Those are fantastic starting places for junior coders. junior staff of any kind. You are much more like think about it from the point of view of a hiring studio. If you are a 10-person studio making a video game, you can probably imagine that everyone on that team is absolutely just heads down, getting stuff done the whole time, right? There's stuff coming in, there's changes, everyone's busy. You would be right to think it wouldn't be much fun being a junior coder on that team, not really knowing what you're doing, trying to learn the ropes, and everyone is just heads down, not able to spend time with you. That's why, and to be honest, those studios don't have. It is commonly the case that they don't have the means to look after junior coders and support you in the way that benefits you. So it doesn't mean it isn't going to work out. It can work out. You have to be even more proactive, even more kind of get stuck in. But a good starting place for for junior coders is the bigger firms, the Sumos, the Rares. By all means, try it with Epic. But there's lots of big studios in the UK. So some of them have these internships. Some of them will be hiring junior programmers, and they will actually have a program for helping you, for supporting those people. Right. And Mitch at Small Impact says, we would hire junior coders, but they all get snapped up so quickly, the people who learn Unreal Engine C++. I'm just saying. If you want, this is with my company t-shirt on, I'm just saying, if you can demonstrate that you can program in C++ and make stuff happen in Unreal Engine, again, you are hacking the application process big time. You are you're going to be right up the end of that. If you can do that, show that you can with some portfolio pieces, do maybe a mixture of solo and team portfolio pieces, plus some of the other advice I'm going to come to, then you're doing it right. You might still have to try 10 times to get in, but you are doing it right. Mitch does a lot of multiplayer stuff, so he talks about if you've completed some group multiplayer projects and grasp of replication. Replication is a technology where each player tells every other player what they're doing on, what's going on. Then that's good from his point of view. He says C++ better than blueprints. Again, if you're a programmer, if you can program in C++, which is hard, but that's where the fancy end of the games industry is. C++, whether it's Unreal or other in-house tech, learn C++. And again, this is quite a good technical point. Anyone who knows about blueprints in Unreal? No one knows about blueprints in Unreal.
Sorry.
Okay, fair enough. No, I suppose that's fair. No, learn about blue. Doesn't matter. I'll move on to that. Now this guy, he's the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer. In other words, the chief nerd at Modoyo. He is the programmer who leads all of the programmers in the whole company. So he's given a very programmery answer, which is he looks for a good understanding of resource and memory management, linear algebra, and an understanding of the low-level stuff of how games work. Fair enough, right? If you want to, and some of you are going to be that person who really likes the low-level stuff. Other people might be more at the technical designer end, who might appreciate more about what that technology allows you to do. If you're at this end, speak to Magnus one day. Unafraid to take risks, learning from mistakes, bringing a fresh perspective. They like young people to just come in and talk about things differently than us old people who think we know how it all works. Right? You've got a different view on how games should be, or what You've got different touch points about what the best games are and the best technology is. So bring that, talk about it, and again, make sure that when you're applying for companies, find the ones that have got actual programs to support you. At least consider that, because if they don't have that, you're going to have to do this work on your own. You're going to have to get really stuck in. You're going to have to be very sort of forward about everything, which is fine. Maybe it's what you want. Communicating, showing passion, showing ambition, programming portfolios. I'm going to talk about in a minute, including instructions about how to actually use it. You'll be amazed. So this guy says solo work is preferable to group projects. Other people say group projects are preferable to solo. I think you should do both. As I say, if you're in a group of 4 people and you say, here's our group project, you've shown that you've worked as a team, you've shown that you can work with those constraints. At the same time, it can be hard to know what you actually did on that project versus other people. So solo work doesn't have that problem. And if you have multiple conversations if you have like 2 interviews with a company, if you don't know the answer to a question in the first interview and you still go through to a second interview, make damn sure that you know the answer to that question the second time. Do you see what I mean? If you have shown that is an absolutely wonderful thing for a hiring person to see. You found a thing that you didn't know. You don't have to know it, but you do have to care about coming to know it, learning it, finding it out. Again, it just shows that drive. Right, and entry-level.games is another thing that someone posted. So my mate Joe Burridge, who used to be a recruiter at Epic and is now a recruiter doing other things, has his own deck. I'm going to big him up here. Joe Burridge, youtube.com/Joe Burridge. He's got some amazing resources from his many years hiring thousands of people into games. So I had a chat with him the other day, and he gave me some advice. And one of the things we talked about was about portfolios. Again, someone like Joe, who's working at a big company, and this would be the same for a Sumo or a Rare or any of these kind of big places, are going to get, and I've even had this when I've been hiring coders, you get a giant stack of CVs. You get a giant stack of CVs. And how do you find the good people in those CVs? So Joe has the following information for you, which is absolutely brutal, and you've got to pay attention to this, right? The answer is, he says that, where's my flipping mouse pointing to?
Move it right.
Yeah, okay. Right, so he automatically rejects CVs in the pile that do not obviously have the following things. I'm going to say this again. If you do not do these things, they won't even look at your CV. Of the 10,000 people I'm talking about, probably 5,000 people or more will not do one or more of these things, right? Because they haven't made the effort to be in a room like this, listening to someone like me telling you this stuff, right? So don't waste the opportunity to know what these things are. That's my parental point there, right? Here we go. A cover letter. Do not just, so a cover letter means, a cover letter is something that you submit alongside your CV to say why you are applying for this job. If you just send your CV to someone, to some hiring person, they are not even going to look at it. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter how good your portfolio looks. It doesn't matter how much effort you've put in, right? You are going to fail every time you do not submit a covering letter with your CV. Yeah? Everyone get that? Your cover letter has to say, why am I applying to this company? Right, that's it. That basically just have to say, I'm actually making a choice to apply to you. I'm not just blasting my CV out to all and sundry. Show why you care. Show why you're interested in working for that company. Demonstrate that you know something about that company, right? I mean, even if your heart and soul is not maximally attached to working for that company, make it sound like it is. You probably won't have to work too hard to do that. Just care, right? Second thing, portfolio. If you do not have a very obvious link to something online where the hiring person can just check out what you have done, putting aside what is actually in that portfolio, I'm just now talking about the existence, the presence of that link, you will fail. They will not even look at your CV, right? What a waste of your time that would be. Right, we'll come on to portfolio specifics in a sec. So, related experience. This is a harder one, but again, you can do it. It doesn't mean you have to have already had a job in the games industry. It just means that you have made some effort to engage with the industry outside of your daily life. Now, Anyone like volunteered at Develop? Or right, great. Any perfect. Any other show you've kind of participated in? Other kind of show? Yeah. What have you done?
Well, I support like this Roblox game studios, like on the Roblox game platform, and they they make games, they update games, and I contribute a little bit to it.
Great. That's a good thing to do, right? Just talk about how you've got a bit stuck in. How much stuck? Right.
You can overrun, by the way. The teachers have been told, so don't,
Oh,
don't
right,
stress
okay, cool.
about anything out.
Right. Another point. So location and education requirements. It's a bit more specific, but it may not always be the case that you need any particular specific education. You might not always need a degree to a games programming degree to get a job. That could be the case. But if you are applying to a job that says that you need that, then you're going to both need that and demonstrate very prominently in your CV or in your cover letter that you have got it, right? If you hide it somewhere down in the text, it's not good enough. Also, location. This is a really good point that Joe made. Sometimes, I know that there's lots of working from home these days and working remotely, although I sense that we are pushing back towards working in offices again. Sometimes a job will be associated with a particular location. You have to be in Brighton, you have to be in Guildford, Leamington Spa, Sheffield, Los Angeles, Munich. If you want the job, but it's true, right? If you might see a job that's in Munich, and that's like, oh my God, that's the job I want, right? Maybe they're making the game that you could not. There is no game that you could get more excited about than the last game that they made. If you ever find that situation, by the way, that's the stuff which goes in your cover letter. Just make sure that comes out. But if they say you've got to be in Munich, then don't say that you're in Brighton, because they won't give you the job. And when I say they won't give you the job, they will not read your CV. Right? They will not even look at it because they've got this pile and they've got to get rid of most of them. They just got to find the ones. So, if you are willing to live in Munich, which is a bit harder now, I'm so sorry for you guys that it was a few years ago, but it's still possible. Then say that you are say that you are located in Munich, and be prepared to move to Munich. Munich's nice. I don't want to talk about Munich. I generally can't think of a game studio that comes to mind that's in Munich. There are loads, but let's talk about Munich. So if you want to, be ready to move to Munich and have the whole conversation with them on the basis that you are willing to move to Munich. Right. You're all going to end up in this is the rebirth of the Munich games industry that we're experiencing in this room right now. Right. Okay. So portfolio. So just cover letter, portfolio, experience, location, and education. Right. If there's nothing else you take from this today, it's that. What do we look for and this? What do we look for in a portfolio? Okay. So lots of stuff here. But again, some of this sounds like no-brainer stuff, but once again, 10,000, you've got to get down to a few, and so many people just don't do this stuff, and it's stupid. So just do it, and you skip the line. Make it accessible. It is incredibly easy these days to provide a URL that shows off your stuff, whether that's ArtStation, well, for you guys are programmers, but like for artists, it's like ArtStation, YouTube, for every time you're doing, okay, whether it's YouTube, ArtStation, Git for code that you've written, or any other way that you can demonstrate what you've done, just make a URL. Don't bother making your own website. Don't worry about programming your own website because as skilled as you are, it is probably not going to look as good as just one of the many template sites, and it's not what they're looking for unless you're applying for a job that requires you building websites, which is probably not this room. So, just use one of the templates. By all means, have your own URL if you want, but just make it easy for just the person to click on and see what you've done. Quality is more important than quantity. less can be more, right? Show your best stuff. If you show stuff which is less than your best stuff, do so with commentary about how you know that you would improve it, or areas where you know that you wanted to you want to make it better, or even consider showing like a series of stages of the same thing, just to show like, oh, I did this and then I improved it in these. I thought this was the problem, so I improved it in this way. A year later it looks like this, and a year after that it looks like that. You could do that, but above all, make sure that your best stuff is front and center, right? If you have to choose, just choose one thing which you want the world to know that you can do, and put that at the top. And you will get judged on that, but if it's good, then great. Yes, show you're working. Again, it's okay to make mistakes. It's also okay to make stuff which isn't perfect, right? But show how you got there. Show how you thought about it. Just the more energy and drive and like engagement and like positivity and excitement that you can show for working in this world, that comes through, and that's what people like me who are hiring programmers want to see. I want everyone on my team to just like be so excited to come in and work every day and make stuff, do their thing, and be really good at it. That's what we want to see. Yes, be clear on your contributions. If you are, we said this earlier, if you are showing if you participated in a group project and you had like 4 of you working on it, you have to explain and find a way to demonstrate what you did as part of that project. Now you do that however you want to do, and obviously there's a degree of trust that you have to have with the interviewer will have to be confident that you really did that work. But you need to be prepared, to state the bleeding obvious. Whatever you say that you did to contribute towards that project, that group project, you have to be ready to talk about that contribution in the interview, right? Because don't claim that you did a certain thing and then turn up in the interview and then you have to admit that you didn't, because obviously that doesn't go down very well. So be clear about your contributions and show it. Combination of images, video, and text. We all work or want to work in a super creative, exciting industry that's defined by people making, like you see all the stuff around on the walls. It's all about art and visuals and experiences and getting people excited and passionate. So if you can present your portfolio or even your CV and your cover letter in such a way that is engaging and stands out and it's a bit different, that stuff works, right? It works. If you're just always, as you're applying, picture Joe with this giant stack of CVs, and all he's doing is just like, look, next one and the next one and the next one. How is he going to stop on yours, right? You've got the skills, or you know people who might be, even if you guys are more codey than art, I bet you enjoy some of that side of things yourselves. But if you have, maybe even if you've got friends who can help you jazz it all up a bit. And again, in your cover letter, don't make your cover letter sound like you're applying to work in a bank, right? Or Holland and Barrett selling walnuts, right? You're not doing that. You want to make video games. So just in your cover letter, make it just a bit spicy, make it a bit like engaging. Right, what else? Oh, include your contact details. How many of the 10,000 people forget to let the person who's hiring to even know who how you go about? What's that?
That's embarrassing if they don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but some proportion of the 10,000 people will fall at that fence. And so, just don't be that person. It's pretty easy but just don't. Right. Job application tips. Right, last slide. Make your own experience. Yes, it is hard to get work experience. Sorry, I'm standing in front of this slide. It is hard. Getting a work experience job as a programmer is an awful lot like just getting a job as a programmer. It is. The process is basically the same. the hiring studio still needs to look after you in the right way. They still need to make a commitment. They still need to pay you. They still need to give you stuff to do. It is essentially getting a job. So it's hard. And if you can't do it, I mean, do try. Right? There are studios in Brighton, as I hope you are aware. Right? There are game studios in Brighton and in the area that are worth asking about doing work experience for. And again, in this era of working from home, there are lots of studios around the UK that you can work for remotely. Personally, I think being in the room, I'm a bit old school, but I've spent many years working in the room with making games, and it is vastly better than doing it sitting in your pants on the on your computer at home on your own. It's better than not doing it at all. But if you can get in the room, do that. Anyway, so if you can't get work experience, make your own. Just get together. I said it. Certain things come up time and time again, so just make sure that you're internalizing them. Get together with your friends and make a thing. You could have a game on Steam in the summer if you started right now if you really want to. You're very busy doing schoolwork, so don't do that. Except maybe you should do that, but don't do it. But make sure you do your schoolwork first, your college work first, and then make your game. But you can do it, and that counts as experience, right? Create your own projects. Game jams, another classic thing. There's millions of game jams. There's too many game jams. There are millions of game jams. If you participate in a game jam and where on the Friday night someone says, right, we're going to make a game about this, and then you have to submit it on Sunday night or whatever it is. If you do that, this stuff again with the 10,000, you're way into the meat of that. You're going to do yourself a massive favour. Start networking. Get to know people because you can't get a job before you've applied to a job, and you can't apply to a job before you know who it is you should speak to in order to apply. Just get stuck in on LinkedIn. I know it's kind of feels like boring, kind of thing that middle-aged men do, like hang out on LinkedIn, but it is actually it's good. It's good to do it. Just kind of keep an eye out for who's doing what. Maybe just maybe make a few connections, drop a couple of comments, or just ask questions to people. Games people enjoy being asked smart, interesting questions from people. Don't be a pain, but just ask questions, and it puts you on the radar. Again, it just moves you through the queue. Yeah. Every time you apply for a job, follow up with the people just to make sure. But again, you have to do this because it helps you stand out and it helps you demonstrate your passion. But also you have to balance that against being too annoying. So that's one for you to judge. And another point that is really also really important. Now it might be something that you might think of it as a not the kind of thing you want to hear, but especially these days, like with Unreal Engine, and I suppose some other engines, if there were other engines, which there aren't, but particularly with Unreal, there are more industries than games dependent on Unreal. There's lots of industries. There's manufacturing, product design, automotive. If you watch a car advert these days on TV, 9 times out of 10, that car is CG. There is no car. There's no real car, and probably half of those are rendered in Unreal, right? So if you know how to do that, you know how to drive that stuff. That's another way you can use those skills. If you had Unreal skills, when you have Unreal skills, there we go. Seriously, I'm not being funny, but actually, and I know I'm the guy, but if you being able to present yourself as an Unreal programmer, you are skipping a lot of the line. I'll leave it at that. So manufacturing, automotive, media and entertainment, film and TV. Are you familiar with these kind of what we call like LED walls or virtual production? Have you heard about this? Is that something you've talked about? It's essentially where you have a giant screen that's like bigger than this room, and actors stand in front of it, acting. That was acting. I was acting, and the camera that is filming them moves around, but that has got a little locator on it, and as the camera moves around, it tells Unreal, it's computers running Unreal which are driving these screens where the camera is, and the image on the screen is updated in order that the whole thing looks like that actor is in that environment, even if they're just on a stage somewhere. Now that is taking over film and TV. In fact, like The Mandalorian, if you guys see The Mandalorian, that was a famous example recently. But like adverts, music videos, TV shows, movies, they're all using this, and they're all using Unreal, and to be honest, I'm using Unreal more than they're using Unity because we're working hard on that. But anyway, even Unity to an extent. If you have those skills, those are great. Those are genuine opportunities for you to go and do a kind of games adjacent job. Get a lot of experience driving the engine, learning how work works, and so on. Right? And it's still really cool. I want you to be in games, no doubt about it, and you probably want to be in games. But just understand that there are other opportunities if you've got those skills. And just like Joe says here, Joe Burrows that is, I'm also very happy to provide any more advice you want. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Good luck getting into video games. Any questions about any of that? Oh, that's my LinkedIn. If you want my LinkedIn, go nuts. And you can have these slides if you afterwards, so you can read those comments from those guys on LinkedIn or whatever you want.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone got any questions, folks? Don't be shy. I'll take the slides and disseminate to your teachers so that you can grab those as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Okay, good.
Cool.